There you go.
Right, we are live. Welcome to Mood TV. This is a Mood TV special. I'm Mark Walton, and obviously we've got Andrea Edwards on there, and we've got a very, very special guest, Ajaz Ahmed, who obviously we've worked with you in the past, Ajaz, in other things
There
that
you have.
in secret, people are things
Yeah.
that only our Move Elite members would see. And we've seen you speak at a few events, but the whole point of having you on is because we like having people who've done stuff and not just people who are all theory based. People have actually done stuff, and people who are disruptors, people who are, as you say, provocative, people who are no nonsense and give real good advice. That if people watching this, they will get some good advice just by following along and listening to what we've got to say today. Straight away, just before we do go on, if anybody is watching live and you've got a question, whether it's on Facebook, I think we stream to YouTube now, and we're also on LinkedIn. We've got Graham in the background, who's our sort of tech guy, the guy who does all the, there he is. How's it going, Graham? So Graham's going to look after us, full, proper professional, all this. We've got someone in the background watching, making sure me and Andrea don't trip up, even though we're sitting down. But Graham will put anything on the screen that is relevance. So if you ask a question and we get time to speak about it, great. But we do have a few questions that we will ask throughout this chat from our members, because we've got a community within Move. Move is obviously full of people that want to win, whether they're startups or they're doing a few million. We've got people of all sizes, businesses of all sizes. And between those people, some people have asked some good questions, which we will get to today. So I've got them on my phone, and so has Andrea. But to get us started, for anyone that's watching live, and you may not have heard of Ajaz, but you soon will once you've watched this. Ajaz, can you give us a bit of a brief idea of why should people listen to you? What have you done that is noteworthy, that people who know who you are, they know what the story is, but can you just give us an idea of what's the story behind your journey so far?
Sure. Sometimes when people ask me, what have you done? Well, the first thing is I tell people I'm a shopkeeper, and that confuses them. But I'm really a retailer. I started off my working life working in Dixon's, and Dixon's. It started off as a camera shop. It's called Dixon's Photographic, and then they bought another company called Curry's, who sold white goods, which is things like washing machines and fridges. And I became a manager in Dixon's, and I was manager of the busiest store in the north of England, which was the Arndale Centre in Manchester. About the time when the bombs were going off, actually, in Manchester. A great time there. And then they bought a small little company called PC World, because they thought the future was in technology and computers. And they bought PC World, and PC World was just 4 stores around the M25 in London. And as soon as I saw the memo, I thought that's where I want to work. I thought the future is selling computers. And I became the manager of the first store north of London, which was in Leeds. And it was in Leeds where I had my famous idea. And I bought myself a computer, and I wanted to get on the internet. And I asked the staff in the shop, how do you get onto the internet? And to my great surprise, nobody could tell me how to get onto the internet. And in those days, there was very, very few people on the internet. So few that Microsoft did not bundle a browser with Windows. And to cut a long story short, I thought to myself that we should become an ISP, an internet service provider. And when I went to see the managing director of PC World and told him about my great idea that we should become an ISP, because we'll get to the customer first, he did something that a lot of people do, which is he said, no, not interested. So I persevered, and managed to get to see the group CEO of Dixon's, and I told him about my idea, and eventually he said, okay, let's give it a go. So we launched a company called Freeserve on the 22nd of September 1998, and Freeserve became the largest ISP, the largest internet company in the UK in just 3 short months. And then Dixon decided they wanted to separate it and float the business. And 9 months after we launched, we floated Freeserve on the stock exchange in London and also in New York on the NASDAQ for an amazing £1.5 billion. And the share price kept going up. And at one point, we were actually worth an amazing £9 billion. And we were actually worth more than our parent company, Dixon's. And like all good things that go up, it went down. And we eventually sold Freeserve to France Telecom in April 2001 for £1.6 billion. And this is a company that was just 3 years old. And Freeserve really changed everything. Because of Freeserve, it kickstarted the whole dot-com boom. And because of Freeserve, many people went onto the internet for the first time. And although it was more than 20 years ago, and I thought by now people would have forgotten about Freeserve, but wherever I go, people still have fond memories of Freeserve. And I've just actually come from an event which was full of business people from all sorts of different backgrounds. And wherever I went, they asked me what have you done, and I told them about Freeserve. To my surprise, people started talking about the first time they went onto the internet and things like that. And everyone seemed to remember Freeserve. And if you don't remember Freeserve, it was the first big internet company in the UK, the first £1 billion internet company. So that's what really I'm famous for.
I was one of your customers. I can still remember my email address with Freeserve in there. So so thank you for that.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that
that was the big competition and rival to AOL, who had the market share at the time.
Absolutely. Well, we were. AOL was an American company. AOL stood for America Online, and there was two companies, AOL and CompuServe, and they were the incumbent ISPs. And within 3 short months, we were actually the largest ISP in the UK. And now AOL and CompuServe have gone out of business because, like a lot of incumbents, they did not react to the competitor, the new disruptor. They didn't react to the disruptor. And we've seen many companies like Kodak and Blockbuster, and the list goes on of companies that didn't respond to the disruptor, and they went out of business as a result of that.
That's spot on. So I mean, just generally, we've got from listening to that. Hopefully, if people who are watching along now have got an idea that you've done well in business so far. You've had good ideas. You've sort of got to overcome some good obstacles with people saying no, and that's not a good idea, and you keep going. So some of our questions today cover that, but you've got a good background in marketing, PR, getting yourself out there, and we'll cover some of those stories. But let's get to a couple of questions. Andrea, I know we've got the list there. Do you want to ask one of the ones you've got on your list? Because we've got some good questions from our Move members. So if we get into some of them, that'll give you a good idea to give advice, which I think for everyone watching, and obviously this, hopefully people are watching live now, but this will go out at a later date, and we'll chop this up into little sound bites that'll help people over the coming months. But first question, Andrea.
Okay, so Ajaz, a lot of people would say, was it easier in business all those years ago? You had a good idea and you followed it through, but life's a bit harder now. So if you could start over, what would you do differently now?
Right. Okay. I mean, one of the things that I've got to tell people about is that no one is going to take you to one side and teach you about life. And that's something that I've learned. No one's going to tell you this is how you do business and things like that. And no one's going to tell you that you should make sure things are in writing, or you should make sure that you should do this, that, and the other. Nobody's going to do it. And people end up spending more money on their car or their house than investing in themselves. So no one's going to teach you about business or life. So you've got to do it yourself. And luckily now, because of companies like Freeserve, we've got the largest free university in the world, which is the internet. So we can learn about things for free. We can learn about how to do things, but we can also read about other people's experiences and make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that they did. And I actually made an awful lot of mistakes. We sold Freeserve for £1.6 billion. But you know what? I'm not a billionaire. I didn't even make 100 million. And if I could have gone back now, after reading some of the success stories and some of the autobiographies of all these successful people on the internet since then, I'd be able to go back and say to Dixon's, no, you're not going to sell this unless you give me this. Because without my signature, they couldn't have actually sold it. But because I was a shop manager before, I was so happy that Freeserve was launched. I was so happy I was getting paid the sort of money that I was getting paid, because I'd never been paid that sort of money before. I agreed to things. So things like that. If I could have gone back, I would have made sure that I got a bigger slice of the cake. I think that was my biggest regret going back now, that I could have done that. But now, if someone is starting a business, they can learn about all these things for free using the internet of the University of the Internet. And most of it is actually for free as well. You can go onto YouTube, you can read about stuff. And if you do have to pay, it's hardly anything. And as I said, people end up spending more money on their house, on their car, than investing in themselves. So learn about things. That's my advice to people.
Every day's a learning day, isn't it, at the end of the day?
It is. Hopefully people learn something today.
Yeah, well, 100% they will. We're only 10 minutes in and we've already covered a few nuggets. But a good question we got as well was, if you were to start your business in 2023, or any business for that matter, given the sort of advances in technology with AI now, social media, the way it is, do you feel you would be more or less successful?
Well, AI is something that we're just starting to find out about. The thing about AI is that it's going to come to us a lot faster than anything else. And I don't think people understand what they can use AI for. I'll admit to you, I don't understand all the things you can use AI for. And afterwards, I'll learn about other people and what they've done and think to myself, God, I wish I'd have done that as well. So again, you've got to read about AI. You've got to read about examples that other people have used it for and learn about it and use it. But it's only just woken up as AI, in the last 3 or 4 months. It's only just started to have an impact on us. And most people, including myself, are waiting for other people to take it by the horn and do something with it. That's just, it's a bit like, when I was at the launch of the iPhone. And Apple did not invent all the things that the iPhone is used for. What they did was they put various processes in there, things like you can measure, when you walk and, all sorts of other things. And they left it for other people to figure out what you can use it for and come up with apps. I've got an app that measures my heart rate. I've got an app that measures how far I walk, how fast I walk. Apple did not write those things. The other people wrote it, and it's the same with AI. AI is just there, and it's up to you to figure out what you can use AI for. So yes, we should be using it, but what you use it for is up to you to figure out. You don't have to write the software yourself. The software is out there. It's up to you to figure out how you can make a difference to your business.
That's amazing. Thank you, Ajaz. So just before we go on to some of the questions that we have obviously been sent by our community, just as a side note, when you go into a high street shop as a manager, as with your manager heading from all those years back, what do you think the next thing that's going to disrupt the marketplace is?
Well, that's a bit of a question. What's the next thing that's going to disrupt the market? Well, the first thing is that the people, the actual shopkeepers that didn't understand or didn't react, they've gone now. Town centres are empty. The ones that have reacted, some of them reacted very late. You'll find that the experience of shopping is much better now than it was before. It's actually a very pleasant experience because they're using all sorts of technology to understand what people actually want to buy and how to buy it as well. So people go along to the high street and they look at it, they feel it, and they touch it, and then they buy it online. And at home, I'm forever receiving parcels from my daughters. And they are so used to buying things. And the other thing that they do, which is something that older people don't like to do, including myself, they actually are not bothered about returning things as well. Older people have got this thing about returning things, but they don't care about it. So retailers have adapted their model to take advantage of the way people actually operate, and people are looking at things in the high street, but they're buying them online, or they're just buying them online whenever they want to, using not a computer like we're talking on, but on mobile phones, on an iPad or something like that. So unless in the high street you've adapted to make it easy for people to buy things on all these devices, then you're not likely to be in business for much longer, or you've already gone out of business. And if you noticed, we're supposed to be in this recession, aren't we? And the first thing you see on the television is about the cost of living and things like that. But I don't know whether you've noticed in the last few weeks, a lot of retailers have actually reported an increase in sales.
Yeah.
And the reason they've announced an increase in sales is because they keep on changing to sell things and at prices that people actually want to buy, and it's working. That's why they're reporting an increase in sales, because they keep on following what the customer actually wants, the way to buy it as well.
Spot on. I was thinking about something before we came on online. It was about the idea of so many people we come across, certainly in the move community, because it's all business owners of different sizes and different, journeys. Some are thinking of starting a business, some are a year in, some are 20 years in. One of the things that pretty much the majority struggle with is getting a sales great, trying to even get the sale, but getting the initial lead, the marketing, get the lead generation, and getting the opportunity to even speak to someone. And when it comes to marketing, obviously, just through speaking to yourself, Ajaz, and seeing your talks in the past, you've got some good examples of what you've done yourself, which is, good marketing, good PR, things, thinking outside the box. Can you give us a few examples of what you've done in the past too? Because you've not just worked at Curry's in the past and Dixon's, you've done other stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I've got to tell people is the single biggest reason why businesses fail is they haven't thought about how to acquire customers. So there's an old saying, if you build it, they will come. No, they won't. You've got to get people to it. And the single biggest reason why Freeserve was successful was when I came up with the idea, I thought to myself, we've got access to the customer because they stood in front of us. When they buy a computer, we can say, here you go. You need access to the internet. Here's a CD. So it's cost us nothing to acquire that customer. And we can pile up CDs in the shops. And as people walk past, they can pick up a CD. So our cost of acquisition was zero. And that's why people fail, because they haven't accurately predicted how they're going to actually get the customer. So if you're going to start a business, the first thing you need to do is figure out how you're going to acquire that customer. So just thinking to yourself, well, I'll advertise it. Well, it's going to cost money to advertise. So have you thought about that? Well, I'll put it in social media. Well, have you thought about the daily bombardment of information that people get? How are you going to make your proposition stand out? And I think what you're talking about, Mark, is PR, isn't it? You can use PR. Lots of people use PR. And it's the single biggest way of actually attracting customers in terms of how much it costs you. You can put out a press release or something like that. But the problem is people put out boring press releases that no one's going to write about and no one's going to read about either. And throughout my sort of history in business, I've always come up with great ideas on stories that people want to read about, and that's how it's worked. So, for instance, the same year as Freeserve, I actually started an Indian takeaway, believe it or not, with my best friend, who's called Abdul. The name of the takeaway is, well, Abdul's. Right? It's called Abdul's. And if you want to look at it, you can look at it on abduls.com or .co.uk. It's still there, actually. And we thought, how are we going to get people to visit it? So we thought we'll get a sports person or a politician to come and open it. In the end, we decided to hire the biggest racist in the country to come and open Abdul's. And we hired the late, great Bernard Manning. We paid him £2,500, and we put a press release out, and to our great surprise, all the national press was there. There was a pile of journalists who came to have a go at Bernard Manning. And then this stretched white limo pulls up, and the short, fat guy got out, and it was Bernard Manning. And he said, "What's the story, son?" So I told him, he said, "Leave them to me, I'll sort them out." And they descended upon him, but they said, "But Bernie, you're a racist. What are you doing opening an Indian takeaway?" He said, "I'm not a racist, rubbish." He said, "I went to a Muslim strip show the other night and the crowd was shouting, 'Show us your face.'" And when when I heard that, I thought, oh my God, what have we done? But we got into the press for nothing, and people found out about Abdul's, and it cost us £2,500. And I've got lots of examples of other things that I did to get ourselves into the press for nothing. And people like I learned this lesson from Richard Branson actually. When he was launching Virgin Atlantic, I noticed that before he actually launched it, he did things like he went across the Atlantic and did all sorts of other things, which got him onto the BBC every single day for nothing. And then after that, he launched his airline. And I was quite young when I saw that, and I thought that's how you do it. But you can't write a press release about something boring. If you make it interesting, most days the editors of newspapers have got nothing to write about actually, so they'll feature you in there if you've got something interesting to say. It's not as easy as you think though, and just because you hire a PR agency doesn't mean to say they'll be able to come up with an idea either. So it's up to you to come up with something interesting.
That's a really, really good point, because nobody knows the brand as well as your own brand, as you do. And whilst you can work alongside a PR agency, you've got to feed them to be able to come up with the interesting stories, and they can play with it, but they can't do it on their own. It has to be a team effort for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I've just been a message from Katie saying she started off when she was 15. Yeah, well done. Yeah, it's a great business. They teach you an awful lot about retail.
Just remember, if you're watching us this afternoon, please post your questions in the chat. We will answer them live. We do have some questions from our Move community that we asked for this week, but we would love also for some live questions to come in too. So the next thing we have to ask you about, if you can go back to your teenage you,
Good.
What advice would you give the teenage you?
Oh God, you're asking some.
And also, what advice would you give somebody who is a teenager going to the 20s now in 2023?
I think it's what I said before. Spend time and learn about things that you probably aren't going to do when you're a teenager. I ask people about all sorts of things, and they just seem to ignore it. I sometimes. When I'm sat on the train and I see the person pushing the trolley saying tea, coffee, I feel like taking them one side saying, do you wish that you'd have actually spent time learning about things when you were younger? There's all sorts of people that are seeing crap jobs, and you think, I wish that they probably wish that they could go back when they were younger and do things that, instead of messing around and wasting time, because you don't realize that later on in your life, you're going to regret some of the things that you didn't do, not some of the things that you did do, the things that you didn't do, because that makes a big difference in your career going forward. So that's what I would say. I wish I could go back, and some of the times that I might have wasted on things, spend that time on making sure that I can use it when I'm getting older.
Cool.
One thing about is you only get one chance in life.
Yeah.
I sound like an old man repeating things that people have heard, but you know what? As you get older, you realize you only get one chance in life, and retirement comes a lot quicker than you think.
It really does. You're right there. But can I just say, before I hand back to Mark, that if anybody is in a job and it perceived as a low-paid job, if they're happy and content, that's okay. Not everybody has to strive, but it's about making sure that we give the space for people to grow and be where they want to be in life. For sure.
100%. Yeah, we've just got a comment there from Chris on YouTube. So he says, obviously, you've got so many great ideas, but when do you find that you are most creative, in the past and these days?
Yeah, okay. It's a good question. I think, one of the questions people ask is, who was your mentor? Right. And you're probably going to find this funny, but my mentor was all the crap people that I worked with. They taught me an awful lot about how not to do things. And that is when I found out that I was creative, because I was working with all these people during my career in sales and in management. And I realized these guys know nothing, actually. I actually know more than them. It used I used to talk to people about things, and they just didn't give a damn. They just didn't give a shit, being crude. And some of these people I obviously get in touch with, but they're not doing anything now because of that. So I learned a lot from some of the poor people
That's a
that I worked
question,
with.
Ajaz. When you look back, was there any ever jealousy from your Dixon managers that were working alongside you, or the Curry managers? Did you ever, as sort of, you had this idea, you were persistent, you kept going, you didn't let somebody say no to you, it becomes a thing, it goes live across the country. How was that perceived by your fellow colleagues? And at the time, the manager that said no to you in the first shop?
So the actual managing director that said no, I've never met him since. But obviously, you can imagine that he does remember me because he's read about me in the press, and other people have said, "Hang on a minute, weren't you the guy that said no?" I'm not going to mention the name, but one of the company that he actually joined, they hired a big consultancy group to figure out why their business was going down, and they came back and told him that you should reposition the business and become more of an internet business, the thing that he turned down. And I thought to myself, why did he have to spend $100,000 or whatever he spent on hiring a consultancy company? All he needed to do was just go down on the shop floor and say to the staff, "Excuse me, do you know why people aren't shopping with us?" They probably could have told him. And he's probably quite jealous of what's happened. If you ask him, probably say no, but he probably is quite jealous. And some of the other ones, they probably spent more time talking about the holidays that they've been on or going to go on than ever thinking about doing anything creative. And at the time, they probably laughed at me. And now they're probably thinking, God, I wish I'd have done something like that. But as I said just a while ago, you only get one chance, and it's too late if you don't grab that chance as well.
Indeed. We had a comment before from Tony on LinkedIn saying the audio sounds really good. So we like that. There it is again. I mean, I've got my professional mic and all that. I know you guys sound good as well.
I'm going to get one now. I've seen yours, I tell you.
It does work as well, because when it's not plugged in and everyone says, "We can hear you okay," and as soon as I plug it in, like, yeah, that's better. So they do work well. We've got a few more questions, but I wanted to pick up on you come and spoke at our Move Elite Day literally 3 months ago. Our next one's tomorrow at Inside Hotel. Now, at that event, you gave me some feedback the next day about Move in general, and some of that feedback was really good. And again, you said, look, some people get a bit upset when I give them some feedback because I tell them the logo looks crap or they're doing this wrong. And it's like, I took everything in thinking I'll take what I need to take. And one of the things was such a simple thing. You said on your email, the signature, you've put a T and a W for telephone and W for website. And he said, "Why are you saying that?" I said, "Just because everyone does it." And you made the point of saying, if someone can't see
I've just noticed.
And I've took that off now, so it's not there anymore.
Excellent, good. Just like at the bottom, it says www.move-online.
Yeah.
All you have to say is move-online.co.uk. You don't need to put www on there.
So say so it's easy to read.
Graham, are you listening?
No, it doesn't make a difference. Because
this
it
is
says
where
.co.uk, so you know it's a website.
So I want to head to just down that rabbit hole a little bit. What mistakes do you see often from most business owners, whether it's on LinkedIn or you consult with people? What are the common things that people are just doing and getting wrong where you think you can be doing that a lot better? Something that a lot of people who are watching and listening now can make use of. Is there anything else, any other tips like that?
Just before Ajaz answered, and have you noticed Graham in the background removed the W? Look, he's put it.
Oh, wow. You see, there you
go.
About
taking feedback,
take action.
And action.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
That.
There's an awful lot of things that annoy me, and people don't really understand. So you see things like people putting tell or email T or E. Why do you need to do that? Also, I mean, I've just been to an event and someone's given me their card. You see, like that. And that is what you call landscape. My business cards are portrait. Right. And if you look at it, it's got no postal address, anything like that. It's just got my details very clearly on there, and there's very little fuss on there. Now, and the reason it's portrait is because I discovered that if you have a portrait business card, you always turn it over. Right. So I use the back of it for advertising my Cut the Crap business. So people, and I watch people, and they look at it, and then they go like this, right? They always turn it over. Whereas if you've got a business card that's landscape, it's more difficult to turn over, and remove things that people aren't interested in. So if you've got a shop on the outside, my brother-in-law's got a takeaway, and I got him a new logo design, and I said, remove the phone number and the web address. He said, yeah, but how are people going to? I said, look, they're going to go on the internet and type in the name in. And if you're driving past, you've not got time to stop your car and write down the phone number. So, challenge yourself. What can you remove from things to make it easier to focus in on things? And the other thing people get wrong is the websites are very poor, and it's because they hire web companies to build websites. But most people who build websites are not actually good at design. So that's why you end up with all these crap websites, because they were taught how to use software, not how to design a website. So hire a designer to design the website and get someone to actually build it. I mean, I could go on. There's all sorts of things that people
talking about websites. Then, Ajaz, just to get some practical tips. If someone's thinking, okay, well, I've got a website, which majority of business owners are going to say, are there some key things that they can go and check their own website out now, and look to see if you've got a certain thing, great. If you've got another thing, that's a no-no. What are some key things to be looking out for?
So, what do you think is the best website in the UK? Well, I'll tell you.
UK. I would most
I hope
say
it's yours.
No, I'll tell you what it is, and I bet you everyone that's listening in on YouTube, I bet you've used it as well. I'll be using it in just over a week's time to pay my tax, which is gov.uk. Everyone visits gov.uk, and it's got more than 1 million pages on there, but everything you can reach within 3 clicks. All right, 3 clicks. And if you can't reach it within 3 clicks, then they work on how you can get it within 3 clicks. And although it's got millions of pages, it's so easy and simple to find things. And you've got to challenge yourself on things like that. When I hate visiting websites where they got pictures of people, you've got stock photographs of someone going, and someone looking over the shoulder, and also just taking up valuable space. Instead of that, then just say what you sell, what the advantages are, very, very quickly and briefly, without having to scroll up and down. And also, you've got websites where they've got something called a carousel. So something appears and then it disappears, and then the next thing appears. Well, you know what? No one's actually going to wait until the next thing appears. So get rid of stuff like that. And look at things like gov.uk, look at the NHS website, and see if there's things that you can learn from it, and copy that onto how you do it. You shouldn't have something that if you run your mouse over it, it goes down. You should have to click it and it goes to another page where you can choose the things from that. The other thing is, I hate websites where they don't tell you the price. Right? If you're going to a website, they should tell you the price. And there's more and more American websites now that tell you the price. They've actually got a thing at the top that says price, and you go to the page and it tells you what the price is. And these for websites that sell services. But if you're selling something, tell them what the price is, because you'll probably lose more people who are frustrated because you're not going to tell them how much you charge than people that are likely to phone you up to say, excuse me, but how much do you charge? Now, Amazon and eBay are the best e-commerce websites in the world. The best UK e-commerce website is probably Screwfix, believe it or not. If you go to Screwfix just to try it out and try and find something, it's actually so good. It's got a search box where it auto completes. So you type something in it, so it predicts what you want to buy and comes up with options and things. It's so easy to use. And look at things like Screwfix, Amazon, and what have you as a benchmark, and see if you can improve how easy it is for people to find things. Now, there's only 3 things people are interested in when they visit your website. The first thing is, what do you do or what do you sell? Why should I buy it from you? Because the chances are they're going to go to 3 different places before they make their mind up. And the last one is, how do I buy it? How do I get in touch? And it's as simple as that. So if you've got a website, challenge yourself. Does it answer those 3 questions? And if it doesn't, then you need to go back to the drawing board, because the chances are you've used someone who doesn't understand this and they've built you a nice pretty little website with pictures of people. You have to scroll down and scroll that way and make it complicated for people.
So functionality is better than the visual aspect as such, as long as they're getting the information needed and the minimum clicks possible. It's funny enough, I was literally sat on this exact laptop in a cafe before, spoke to our social media guy, and decided that our process for people to book our networking events, which are weekly networking and walking events, they've got to click to get onto the page, and then at the top it says attend West Kirby or Sefton Park, and when they click either one, it's anchor pointed to the same page, but where it tells you about Sefton Park or the other one, and then you can click book. I decided, and I did this earlier, at the top it now just says book West Kirby or book Sefton Park, takes them straight to the booking page.
Great.
If they bother to scroll, they then end up on the bit anyway if they're willing to scroll, and then you can book from there. So they can book from 2 places now, but it's one less click. And that one less click can make all the difference.
It makes a difference. My favorite website, actually, and it's a very, very popular website, is the BBC website. And I bet everyone's used it now. And they also use 3 clicks principle. So, I live in Huddersfield, and I'm always interested to know if Huddersfield is still at the bottom of the championship. So, if I want to see where they are in the table, I have to, from the news page. And so if I go to the BBC homepage, then I press sports, that's 2, and then I press tables, right? So I've pressed 3 clicks, and it won't show me the championship division, right? And it's because if I pressed championship, if they had Premiership, Championship, that's the 4th click. So there's a box that says search. So I type in Huddersfield, and there all of a sudden appears the Championship table.
We definitely have become an instantaneous global human race. So we do get frustrated on the journey, and I often go and become the customer, and I go into our website and go, still too clunky. So the difference is people will build a website and they tick it off and say job done. It is an absolutely evolving piece, because what we thought was right in 2020 isn't right in 2023.
Well, and most of the people who build websites are not actually any good, and they've never been taught about psychology, right? So they just don't understand psychology, so they end up building crap websites that are all looking very similar, and they don't take the time to actually understand what the customer's needs are. And even if you told them, they wouldn't know what to do. So you have to probably look at someone else and say, I want something similar to this.
Okay, how many clicks was that?
There you go. Are they winning? Are they winning now? That's the...
Oh, that's the next game.
No, they're the 3rd from bottom, I think, at the moment.
Okay, well, coming from an Everton house, and Mark is an Evertonian, I'm sure our eyes are at the bottom of the table as well.
Do you know, I can't wait for the new... Sorry, I can't wait for the new Everton Stadium. I can't wait to see that.
Well, Mark and I have been invited to behind the scenes already to have a look at it.
Go on. I was
We've
going to
booked
say
in
I go onto
one of our
YouTube and
move elite days. Go on, Ajaz, you speak first.
yeah, I'll say I go onto YouTube and have a look at the Anfield Stadium to see how it's getting on. That's it, yeah. Using some sort of flight or whatever,
Yeah.
and a drone probably, isn't it?
A
And
drone,
I look at the Everton Stadium as well, and it's looking stunning, isn't it? It
It is
seems to
stunning.
be, yeah. I can't wait to see that's finished. Actually, it's going to be really
Yeah,
good.
So I'm just
have
conscious
actually
of
booked
the
in.
time. And we have some great questions left.
on,
I
All
just
right, go
want
on.
to
Sorry,
see,
go on then.
if you lost everything and had to start again,
Hmm.
what critical actions would you take in the first 30 days?
Oh God. Well, I think obviously you'd get a job, so you got money coming in, and you know, I can't answer that question because it's so wide, isn't it? It really is. It's yeah, I can't, because there isn't a magic wand. I think
It's
I'd read
interesting. The
about.
first thing you wanted to do, and this is something that I'm really passionate about,
Hmm,
is ensure there's cash coming into the house, because people say
yeah,
money doesn't make you
to get it.
happy. But
Yeah,
actually, if you don't have money, you can't actually go and pursue and do anything else. So
no, you
there is
can't. Yeah, I haven't worked, believe it or not, since we sold Freeserve full time. Right, so which is good. I've worked, you know, as an advisor, sitting on a board of a company, for giving speeches, all that sort of thing. So I've done that. But if I lost it all tomorrow, then I'd have to get myself a job and make sure I don't spend it all either. But I wouldn't stop coming up with an idea so I could start it again. And you know, so I keep on. Even now, I don't read books, believe it or not, but I probably read the equivalent of a book every week because of all the websites that I look at, and I subscribe to websites where I have to pay money as well, because I learn about all sorts of things that a normal person wouldn't be able to. And when I say subscribe and pay, I'm talking about there's one website I pay $1.99 a month. There's another website which to do with branding, which I'm passionate about, pay again about £2 a month. There's another website that I subscribe to. It's about £5 a month. So I end up having an advantage over other people because I'm reading things that they're not reading. And by reading these things, I learn about things that other people haven't read about and learnt about.
That's good. And it makes sense that if you even at such a small price, if someone is actually trying to charge people £1.99 or £3 or something, they have an obligation themselves to make sure they put out good
Yeah,
content,
yeah,
wherever you're at least paying a few pound a month.
yeah.
Speaking of money, though, that leads us into a question. Someone put, with any of the money that you did make from Freeserve being sold, whether it was a massive amount or just
Mm,
a comfortable amount or whatever, what did you
mm.
do? Did you invest the money in your own personal and business development? Did you do
Oh,
other stuff with it?
yeah,
What was important to you at the time? What did you do with any of that money?
yeah. Well, so again, it's another lesson, this, isn't it? I don't mind admitting, and I wish I could go back, that I did make mistakes in investing in businesses. And I invested in businesses and I lost the money that I invested. So one of the things that I learned was that you actually take more of a risk if you've already invested in business. So as an example, so let's say you put £50,000 into a business and it doesn't go that well, you're more likely to put another 50,000 in because of that 50 grand that's at risk. And then you put another 50 in, and then one day you realize, hang on a minute, I'm not going to get any of this back. And all of a sudden you've lost 150 grand. But what you should do is be able to look at it and think, you know what, I'm not going to get that money back. I'm going to walk away after you put 50,000 in. And I didn't understand that at the time. So I lost more money than I should have done. But I've got a set of rules now. So for instance, I know I'd only invest in a business if I can be part of the functioning of that business. I'm not going to put money into a business and let someone else do it. So I need to be able to control the direction and outcome of the business if I'm going to invest in that business. So that's an important thing that I've learned since then. Otherwise, keep the money in the bank.
Okay,
Yeah,
we have a
indeed.
question from the audience.
Hmm.
When are you your most creative?
All the time. All the time. So, on a Saturday or a Sunday. So during the week, I read the Times on my iPad. During the weekend, I get the print edition of it. So I go to the newsagent and I've got a voucher and I buy that. So when I'm sat there reading the newspaper, I've got my phone, I've got my iPad with me. Things occur to me, and all of a sudden I'll take out my computer and I'll start doing a search on something that I've read and things like that. And I see things all the time. I'll take a photograph of things that I see when I'm talking to people. So I don't think I ever switch off, actually. It's something that's with me all the time. I think that people should do the same. Take your phone out, take a photograph, visit the website, whatever it is. Just think about it all the time.
I send Mark random pictures of things all the time.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
They're all my content ideas.
Right.
I get an idea, goes in there straight away. Most of them I've done as posts already on LinkedIn or Instagram.
Yeah.
But as soon as I think of something, I have a dedicated place. And I have one for LinkedIn, one for TikTok, one for Instagram, and one for anything move related.
I've been to a law firm early on today, and the room where they had the food, they had these bookshelves with old law books. We're talking about 100 years old, more than 100 years old. And she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "It's very nice, actually." But I said, I went to DLA, who are one of the biggest law firms in the world. And I said, they've got books like this as you walk in, not in the back room, as you walk in. And the other thing is that they haven't got them on an IKEA Billy bookcase like you've got either. And, you need to put them down there where customers are walking in, and you need to have a proper quality bookcase. And I said, if you give me your email address, I'll send you the photograph that I took when I went to visit DLA, because it looked so impressive. The people there probably thought, what's he doing taking a photograph of the bookcase? But it was inspirational, wasn't it? That if you want to show off books,
do it properly.
Do it properly. Don't buy a Billy bookcase from IKEA, especially if you want to charge £100 an hour.
Indeed. Conscious of time, we've been on for nearly 50 minutes now, so we will start wrapping up. But Andrea, you can start to wrap us up.
Okay, so I have been taking notes on some of the things. So these are the takeaways that I want to share with the audience, and we will put this in the Move community as well. First one, which is key for everything we do in life, was about perseverance, and everything you've talked about with that. Your first journey was persevering and not giving up. Second one would be to react to the disruptor in your marketplace. Don't think if you're doing well and you've got a good percentage of the market share that you're always going to have it. So be aware of the disruptor around you. No one teaches you. Invest in yourself. You spend more money on your car and your property. I love this one. University of the Internet. It's either free or low price. Figure it out. Don't just sit and wait for it to happen. Understand what's AI, I should say. Adapt your model. Don't just sit with whatever you've got now. Fail if you don't understand how to acquire your customers before you start. Mentors, well, your best ones were the ones that weren't doing anything, because you realize that's what you didn't want to become or be. Screwfix, I'm going to check their website out. And .gov, we do go on there as a benchmark. What do you want? Why would you buy it? And how do I buy it? Create and use a creative mind to design a website, not just a web company. And functionality and simplicity is that journey, and the 3-click principle.
That's a good one. I like the 3-click principle. Spot on. Also, I always like to look for how can we improve. And if anyone's noticed, when we started, it was light, the sun was up, and it was nice and bright. Because I'm sat in front of me bifold doors, the lighting for me is terrible now. So I've learned I'm never going to sit at my dining room table unless it's the summer. I'll make sure my lighting is good, because you guys have remained the same the whole time.
I've been watching you go darker, and I was going to write to you today.
I've got bright lighting, which I use for this.
It's real life.
but I can turn it down as well. How's that?
But
Look at the
that's, I think
technology there.
Hey,
that's
it's
what I
not bad,
need.
is
See,
it?
send me the
Hey,
link, Ajaz. How do we do this?
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just gone over 50 minutes. I think we've had a great conversation. It's been the amount of nuggets and obviously a nice summary there from Andrea. There's a lot that people can take away. If people want to contact you, Ajaz, and deal with yourself, because you obviously can consult with people these days, especially on
Yeah,
marketing and websites and
yeah,
all the other bits. How
yeah.
can people get in
How can
contact
they
with you?
do
Because
it?
we will obviously we'll put your links in our
Yeah,
anything we post
yeah,
out. But where can people
yeah.
follow you online
Okay.
and
Well,
get in
so I
touch?
mean, the first thing obviously is LinkedIn. I don't like social media because people end up talking about all sorts of things that aren't relevant. LinkedIn is where I write things. I don't write about who I'm seeing or what I've done or things like that. I write about things that I think of. So, for instance, the thing about how we're supposed to be in a recession, but people are reporting an increase in sales. What's going on, things like that. So I write blogs about all sorts of things. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. But put a message on there about where they saw this, so that because I get so many people wanting to link with me, I always sort of reject it because of the fact that most people are trying to sell you something. So
Yeah.
put on there they saw
There's
me
your
on
link there.
this. Sorry.
Graham just put your link in the bottom there. There it is. But that will go on to anything that we post
There
out where
you go.
you're tagged in.
Yeah,
Especially when we chop this up into little mini
yeah,
snippets
yeah.
for the little sound
By the
bites on
way,
social media.
yeah, there's another Ajaz Ahmed who had a company called AKQA, which was an internet company. He used to build websites, so don't get confused him with me,
Not to
And
be
then the last
confused.
one, yeah, and the last one is my website, which is sosavvy.co.uk.
Not
I used to have somebody on the
www.
wall. Sorry,
Not www. Just so
no,
savvy.co.uk.
sosavvy.co.uk. There you
There
go.
you go. It's on the
How's that?
screen now.
Hey,
I
Jazz,
mean,
Graham
if
does a
you
good
could,
job.
another
go on.
tip, by the way, is that you should always have your own domain, because I've got my email address, which is ajaz@sosavvy.co.uk. That's going to be with me for life, which is like a personalized number plate. A lot of people have a Gmail address or a Hotmail address on their business cards as well. That's not very professional,
Yeah,
is it?
I
So
agree with that.
get your own
I
domain.
always
It's
do
only going
this.
to cost you about a tenner a year, and get
Yeah,
your own email address.
good stuff. Tony's been
I
listening the whole
bit of
time,
a
so
shout
it's,
out to Tony, who I was with
appreciate
beforehand. So
that.
thanks for listening, Tony. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much again, Ajaz.
Thank you.
I'm sure we could get you back on here because there's so
Yeah.
many things we could pull out
Yeah.
in another conversation in the
Yeah.
months to come. So
I've
thank
enjoyed
you.
it so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
We
Over
appreciate
to
it,
you, Mark.
Ajaz, guys. But before we do shoot off, obviously we do move to there's a few a week that Graham hosts. He does a great job. Me and Andrew come and do this one as a sort of a monthly special. Next month we have got our next guest lined up. As you can see, they're already lead owner, and it's going to be another great conversation again with someone that disrupts the market, someone that has thinks outside the box. We're looking forward to that one. So the link for that is already out. You can sign up and get a notification for when it's on live. And as always, this is saved. So if you've not been able to watch this on a live, it will be on a repeat that you can go and watch. And no doubt all of the nuggets and the good information that Ajaz has shared today will be chopped up, sliced up by Graham, our sort of media guy, and it will be put out there on all the different social media channels for people to make or take full advantage of. But in the
Can I
meantime,
give you one other tip?
last tip, Ajaz. Go on.
Go on, last
Finish
tip,
off
right?
with.
It's a good one. This, a lot of people who, when they're doing a video call, they have it on they have the camera on their desk, on the computer on the desk, and it's pointing upwards at them. You notice this is the right angle, and my wife told me this. She said, "Why don't you use the ironing board?" So my computer's on the ironing board. It's at the right level.
I've only just thought I was going to use this, and I've only just realised I could have turned it upside down because it's got these notches on it. I
Could have
thought
done.
it'll be a
Yeah,
bit rickety,
yeah,
but I was
yeah.
conscious I wanted this higher, but we've
I'm on.
managed. We've done a
I'm
good
on
job.
4 books. I'm very professional. I'm going to show you what I'm on. I'm on 2 books, but I'm on a piece
Go
of
on.
wood that I broke with my hand when
Right.
I went with
We love
Tony
it.
Robbins. And it lives on
Well,
my desk.
if you
And
can
just
get your ironing board in there, use that.
thank you for the
How's
top
that?
tip.
There you
And
go.
just one last thing before we close, Mark.
Yeah.
Just to remember, I know Mark just mentioned it. We have the lovely Lou who's going to be talking to us on the 21st of Feb. Her business partner is called Chloe. And a bit of a fabulous stat. Chloe is listed in the Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah.
Be very
We
interesting
only interview the best people, to be fair.
Cool.
And anyone that is watching now, if you're watching live, we have got Move Elite Day tomorrow, which is only for business owners that turn over at least 250k up to 5 million. They actually are the business owner and they're actively trying to grow the business, because not everyone is, but we get all those people into a room, and it is the only place in the whole Northwest that we're aware of where you can get that type of experience, being in a room full of those types of people. If you happen to have a day free tomorrow, we've got in Liverpool City Centre, we do have one space left. So if you want to book on, send us a DM. But we're excited to do another Move Elite Day tomorrow. But Ajaz, we appreciate your time. And we will,
Thank you, Ajaz.
have a good one, guys. Thank you so much. And thanks for everyone that's watched. See you soon.